There is plenty to talk about this week, but when is there not in Bloomington? Welcome to IU Sports Sunday. He's Ben Haller. I'm Nick Rodecap. It's Super Bowl Sunday, but we have more pressing issues to tackle. Well, not tackle, but take care of, I guess. You can't tackle somebody on a basketball court. Ben, Indiana lost to Michigan 70 to 67 yesterday. That final score, a little deceiving. Anthony Leal made a three-quarter court shot, as he likes to do, at the buzzer, for Indiana to lose by 3 instead of 6. That game was the epitome of Indiana men's basketball this season, I think. Close, but never quite close enough. You might say there was a certain hump that the team just couldn't get over, and Ben, it was really just kind of more of the same. Indiana has now lost, I think, 7 out of 8. And they're going on the longest losing streak this program has had since Archie Miller's second year. That was 2018-19, where they lost 6 in a row. They go up to East Lansing on Tuesday night. Michigan State, still one of the best teams in the country. Tom Izzo just tied Bob Knight for most wins by a Big Ten coach, I believe. And he could break the record against IU. IU's got to figure it out, and they are pretty much out of time to do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty poetic, too, that Tom Izzo's more than likely going to get that record-breaking win against Indiana. I kind of agree with what you said about yesterday was kind of just the epitome of what Indiana basketball has been all year. But, well, that's in terms of things that happen on the court. They finally have a close loss, at least. I mean, I know fans obviously don't want to hear that, but they've just gotten blown out so much this year. I mean, Wisconsin has there ever been a more predictable outcome than what happened in Madison on Tuesday night?
This season, no. Last year, yes, Purdue both times.
True. I'll give you that.
But this season, that was a first.
Yeah.
Like, it played out exactly how people thought it would in Madison. I remember just sitting in my living room, pulled up Peacock, turned on the game, and Wisconsin just didn't miss a shot for about 8 minutes. The two big lineup, shocker, didn't work. Didn't work again yesterday, but Indiana was forced to run it for the majority of the game because Michigan has 2 7-footers.
Yep.
We knew it was going to be a matchup nightmare, and you can talk about the comeback attempt if you want, and that's admirable, but a loss is still a loss because you let an opponent get up by 17 on your home floor. People were booing, and they were booing very loud at halftime. I mean, they had some close losses before, with Maryland and Purdue and almost Winthrop. But yeah, you had Maryland, Purdue. Northwestern was technically a 9-point game. I don't know if that counts because it felt more lopsided than that. But, jeez, just another gut punch for Indiana basketball, right? And yeah, Michigan State on Tuesday. So we'll dive into some of the numbers here from last night's game. Indiana following by 3. In that one, I actually called the game for WIUX. My voice is pretty much gone. But it's okay. We press on. We're fast, physical, relentless. Smart, disciplined, poised, as Kurt Cignetti would say.
Battle through adversity.
Can he coach the basketball team?
Maybe. I don't know. Well, people are calling for a certain Mark Byington from Vanderbilt who has coached alongside Kurt Cignetti in their basketball program in James Madison.
Yeah, that would be so funny. If Indiana just becomes the major leagues for James Madison coaches. Who's their baseball coach? Maybe we can get him as like an assistant.
Jeff Mercer's not going anywhere.
Well, hey, we might need another assistant. You never know.
True.
I mean, Blake Allen just came over, but I'm sure there's like a video coordinator role somewhere. Indiana basketball.
Mark Eikenberry.
Another Mark. Interesting.
Or wait. Michael Roberts is what I'm reading, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, his name starts with an M. I think that's close enough.
Yeah.
Michigan defeating Indiana by 3. Indiana did outscore the Wolverines by 13 in the second half. The problem is Indiana got outscored by 16 in the first half. So you split the numbers there, and it's a 3-point advantage to the visitors. Michigan looked very impressive, especially early on. They were getting whatever they wanted offensively. All 5 of their 3-point field goals came in the first half. They did not make one in the second half, which is good. The problem is Michigan made 17 of its 20 free throws, and even though they turned the ball over 12 times, they did a good job of, I think, limiting Indiana's ability to capitalize on those mistakes. Indiana just 2 of 8 from 3. They only attempted 8 3-point shots. And remember, going into this season, I think a lot of people were saying, yeah, Indiana needs to attempt more threes. They certainly did not do that yesterday. I think you can credit Michigan's defense for a lot of that. We knew this was going to be a matchup nightmare, and Ben, boy, was it ever for Indiana men's basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you always knew that was going to be interesting coming into it because of all the talk about the two big lineup. But this is a team that you have to play two big lineup against. And once again, it's just the offense. There are plenty of two big lineups in college basketball that work. But the way the Indiana offense is designed, and it's not helped by the fact that Umar Ballo and Malik Reneau, neither of them are really guys that are going to stretch the floor too much. I mean, you look at a team like Michigan, and you can do either or. Vladislav Golden can play on the perimeter, Danny Wolf can play on the perimeter. Both of those are 7-foot guys. But I think, once again, it just goes back to when I take a step back and look at how this team was constructed. Obviously, the number one storyline into this year is, all right, the number 2 portal class in the country. They've spent probably top 3 in the country in terms of NIL spendings in the offseason. They brought in a pretty solid accumulation of talent. Not as much as we thought, but I think the way the team was constructed and how the team was put together was not really a priority for Mike Woodson.
I think of the word mercenary, right? A bunch of guys, kind of hired guns, talented on their own, but you put them together and it just doesn't quite work.
Right.
And it just feels like there's no cohesion, especially when there are two bigs on the floor. And again, Indiana had to at least start with two bigs on the floor. And just like Wisconsin, Michigan just came out the gates firing. I think it was 16-5 at one point early on. Everything feels so stilted on both ends of the floor for them. And look, Danny Wolf is kind of a unicorn, right? He's 7 feet tall and he can score from outside. It's insane to watch. By the way, a 60% free throw shooter, and he made I think 4 straight free throws to ice the game.
Yeah, well, they're a fun team to watch. I really wish they really don't have a good backcourt. I wish they did because they'd be a really good team, but. Watching Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden play it's just so mesmerizing.
It's something, yeah. And I was on the court before the game yesterday, before Indiana took on Michigan, and Danny Wolf jogs by me, and I looked up and it was like, whoa, I know 7-footers are tall, but he's big.
And that guy will take you outside. Not only be able to shoot the three, but be able to beat you off the dribble, too.
It's ridiculous. And Malik Reneau was matched up against him for most of the night. And, to be fair, I mean, Danny Wolf, he scored 20 points, but that's kind of just normal for him. He actually had 9 rebounds, which is under his season average. He averages a double-double. Leads the conference in double-doubles. But Malik Reneau on the other side for Indiana looked about as good as he has in his post-injury state. He's 5 or 6 games back from that knee injury. Scored 16 points to lead Indiana. I'll tell you what, though. Michigan clamped down on Umar Ballo. He was really a non-factor for most of the game. 6 points, 4 rebounds for a guy who leads your team in scoring and rebounding. Didn't lead the team in either yesterday. Only played 19 minutes. And, usually when we think of starters not playing minutes, it's exclusive to Miles Rice. Rice only played 12 minutes yesterday after a Purdue game where he played 20 minutes and a Wisconsin game where I think it was somewhere in a similar neighborhood. Miles Rice, I mean, you think about guys who are talented on their face, just haven't put it together. I mean, Trey Galloway played 35 minutes for Indiana yesterday. Luke Goody played 28. Ballo and Rice combined for 31. I don't know. It feels like Michigan did a great job defensively of taking these guys who can be game changers for Indiana and just getting them completely out of the equation.
Well, I think Michigan is unique, too, in the fact when you at the college level, when you have, especially in the front court, it feels like a lot of the really good offensive bigs, the really crafty bigs, usually means you're not as tough and not as physical, and which is kind of, directly correlated to being not a great defender. But Golden and Danny and Wolf both defend really well. And that's, once again, one of the things where I say if they just had good guards, that could be a really good team. But for Indiana, I think if you go back to the beginning of the season and tell your future self that Miles Rice and Marbalo are combining for 31 minutes, I mean, that's just not – once again, I don't think it's all their fault. I think a lot of it is just how the team is constructed. But, I am not sitting here and, trying to talk about any of these players as not being great off-the-floor guys, great chemistry guys, because I don't know individually who isn't on this team. I can't really tell, to be completely honest with you. But I also think along with being, building a team collectively and not just individual guys, you also need to have that kind of chemistry and have the good guys off the floor, and those kinds of players that I just don't. That could be another factor as to why this thing isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of documented instances of yelling in the huddle at each other. Not, instructive, but almost, I don't know, friction, like some sort of verbal sparring going on. Joe Cronin's video of the Purdue huddle after Umar Ballo fouled out, that got some traction, and it definitely has not seemed like an isolated incident. For Indiana men's basketball, unfortunately, I mean, the clock has been ticking for a while, but now it's like the 60 minutes clock where it's constantly in your ear on Sunday evenings. Indiana men's basketball falling to 14-10, 5-8 in the conference. Michigan improved to 18-5, 10-2. They are still very much one of the front runners to win the league. Indiana has another one of those front runners on the docket on the road on Tuesday night in East Lansing. We'll talk more about that when we come back. You're listening to IU Sports Sunday. Back here on IU Sports Sunday, he's Ben Howler. I'm Nick Rodecap. We're with you on this second Sunday in February. And Ben, we have been. I feel like a broken record because it's like we're watching the same movie over and over. Indiana men's basketball finds creative ways to lose games, and then moves on to the next team on their schedule, and somehow things don't get better, at least on paper. Yesterday, Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo tied Bob Knight for the most wins by a Big Ten coach all time. And he has a chance to break that record against Indiana when the Spartans host the Hoosiers in East Lansing on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Now, the last time Indiana played a game on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on Peacock, they were down 26-4, 8 minutes in. We were talking about it a little bit during the break. Michigan State gave up, 10 threes in the first half?
10, yeah.
And they won by 12.
Oregon hit 10 threes in the first half and still lost that game.
Wow.
It is a Michigan State team that it is so – I'm glad that you just started your statement the way you did and said – Indiana keeps finding creative ways to lose games. Well, Michigan State has won basketball games in every single way possible this year. They've had high-scoring games. They've had low-scoring games. The one thing they don't have is a bad loss. All 4 losses for Michigan State this season are Quad 1, and they have an over 500 record in Quad 1. So that is an elite resume when you have over 500 record in Quad 1 and no other losses. 5-4 in those games, and they have some really good wins. They just, it seems like they've not let the road bother them. They've got some wins on the road at teams against teams like Northwestern, like North Carolina, who got a big win yesterday, and Ohio State. So this is a team that this is gonna be tough. I think matchup wise, Michigan State's that kind of team that can match up with anybody because they're just so versatile. So that's going to be tough for Indiana.
Michigan State, one of the top-ranked teams in the nation right now. They're 19-4, 10-2 in Big Ten play. I think they started Big Ten play 9-0. Lost twice, both on the West Coast, both on Peacock. Weird things happen on Peacock. It's very strange. Somehow USC beat them, which, I mean, from seeing USC in person on Friday, they are really bad.
Well, they didn't have their best player on Friday.
Yeah.
USC has had some pretty good games, and also it's the traveling West thing.
Yeah, everything gets thrown out the window in terms of favorites and underdogs and spreads when you're when you're on the West Coast. Unless you're Indiana football, then you just handle business and come home. But that's apples to grapefruits, that comparison. Michigan State, I should say, is posed for, shocker, a deep March Madness run under Tom Izzo. In other news, today is Sunday. Jace Richardson, a freshman, had 29 for Michigan State in that game. He led all Michigan State scorers. He doubled up everyone else on the team. Jackson Kohler had a 14-point double-double. Michigan State shot 50% from the floor. That's pretty good. They shot 44% from three, 89% from the free throw line, out-rebounded Oregon by 13. Yeah, they don't beat themselves. That's kind of the hallmark of Tom Izzo coach teams. They do not beat themselves. They got down 14 at the half and then outscored Oregon 50-24 in the second half. They turned it on at the Breslin Center, and I expect the energy in that building to be no different on Tuesday night. So for Indiana now, I mean, you think about the big picture, and the big picture is shrinking at this point. You've got 7 games left this season, if my math is correct, which I think it is. You're 5-8 in Big Ten play. You are well outside the NCAA tournament bubble. I mean, not just like the first 4 out, the next 4 out, probably the next 4 after that. You've got to beat either Michigan State or Purdue. You have to win every game at home from here on out, and you probably have to win one on the road against either Washington or Oregon to even have a shot.
Yeah, I remember. I ran a bunch of Bart Torvik simulations. I think it was 3 games ago, or no, it was 2 games ago. It was before Wisconsin, and I predict, and it looked like they needed to go about 6-3 in their last 9 games, and they've gone 0-2 since then. So that puts it at what, a 6-1 in the last 7 games, which I think that's a little too much to ask for. It's probably going to be Big Ten championship or bust for this Indiana team, which I'm sure we're real confident they have a real shot at the Big Ten championship, right?
Well, I mean, the plus for Indiana basketball in the Big Ten tournament is that it's in Indianapolis.
True.
The bad news is that they can't even fill up Assembly Hall anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at photos from that game last night because, we're in Section K. We can't see the balcony. Mm-hmm. The balcony was not full at all. It wasn't even close. I mean, the side opposite the press row, high up in Section K, that side was not full.
Yeah.
It was not even close to full. The student section was actually pretty full in the lower bowl. That was cool. But what would the fan turnout be in Indy? Would they get outnumbered by other teams not from the state of Indiana? At least, I would say if they make it late in the tournament, but I don't know.
I'd say probably Purdue, but I don't know. That's an interesting thing because I also think fans might be a little more inclined to go to the Big Ten tournament on the surface because it's just cooler event to go to.
Very true.
At the same time, I don't really know how many games Indiana's going to be playing in, so I don't know how much this matters in the Big Ten tournament. But
yeah.
Michigan State, I'll tell you what, if you didn't know anything about this Michigan State team besides their record, went and looked at their stats, they got one dude averaging 13 points, someone averaging 10 points. Those are the only 2 guys that average double figures for Michigan State.
Seriously?
They average 80 points a game. They have 7 guys averaging 7.7 a game or more, and 5 guys between 7.7 and 8.3 points per game.
So
I mean, everyone just goes and scores 8 points for this team.
They spread the wealth, and they
Yes.
do it really well.
Yes.
That's a problem for Indiana. Because, man, does wow, that's absurd. So how many guys between 7 and 8?
7.7, 8.3. There's 5 guys.
Okay.
And they're all like pretty Big Ten house names. I mean, they have a lot of talent. Cohen Carr, Trey Holloman, Frankie Fiddler, who Indiana fans have been seeing for a while, Jeremy Fears, and Jackson Kohler.
So for comparison, Indiana has 1 guy between 7.7 and 8.3 points per game. It's Trey Galloway. That's it. Indiana does not spread the wealth like Michigan State does. I mean, thinking about Indiana on defense, I don't feel like they have enough good defenders to handle that. That's going to be really tough.
And you know who's right below that 7.7 mark is Xavier Booker played at one of the Indiana schools.
Yeah,
right?
Cathedral High School graduate and Class 4A state champion,
yes.
Xavier Booker.
Yes, I can't believe I disrespected you by forgetting that he was from Cathedral.
I mean, he was actually kind of underwhelming for his size at Cathedral. You'd think he would have been better than he was, which means now that I said that, he's going to go for like 30 points against Indiana. Just like, who was it at Wisconsin Carter Gilmore, right? He did something productive when he's averaging like 2 points a game.
Yep.
It's weird, if you're a role player in a Big Ten school and you see Indiana on the schedule, you are chopping at the bit for that one. I mean, it was Ty Berry against Northwestern. He had like 7 threes. Ty Berry averages maybe 7 points a game. He goes for 21 against IU just because that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. I will say there were some positives from yesterday, and yet again, most of them came in some form or another from Anthony Leal. He's stuffing the stat sheet. Didn't turn the ball over yesterday. 12 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist, as well as 2 steals. 2 of Indiana's 3 steals. The other came from Luke Goody. Leal made all 3 of his 3-point baskets. Percentage-wise, he was Indiana's best 3-point shooter. That's a problem. Because Indiana should, and now Luke Goody got into foul trouble. He did not have a good game yesterday at all. But if Anthony Leal is your best outside scorer, then Michigan State is going to feast all over you. Just like Michigan did in the first half. Now, Indiana rallied back, but it was not close enough, and I'd say most of that came from the crowd. Just getting fired up, wanting to get fired up about something. It's weird because I did the Maryland game too, and it felt like the exact same sort of vibe in the building. Team gets down, and then the crowd tries to rally behind them. The team responds, and then they come up just short in the end. The crowd will not be behind them on Tuesday night. Have you ever been to the Breslin Center?
I have not. I guess next year's the last chance because I will not be there this Tuesday, and there's a good chance they won't even play there next year. So
yeah,
can't believe I'll go my college career without making it there. Maybe I'll go see a women's there sometime.
It is very difficult to win at the Breslin Center.
Mm-hmm. What I've heard.
Trying to run some numbers here and do some math. Indiana played Michigan State on the last day of the regular season here in Bloomington last year. The last 3 times, so the last 2, Indiana's gone to the Breslin Center twice under Mike Woodson. They have lost those games by 25 and 15 points, which that's just weird. I feel like every single Indiana conference loss is a blowout. At least in the past under Mike Woodson, especially on the road. And that is no different for Indiana going to East Lansing. So average margin of defeat, about 20 points. Signs are not encouraging for Indiana men's basketball, and their time is running out quickly. You're listening to IU Sports Sunday. Welcome back to IU Sports Sunday alongside Ben Howler. I'm Nick Rodecap, and Indiana men's basketball is, I think, in the middle of something called a coaching search. Is that what they call them when your coach leaves and you got to get somebody to replace him? I don't know. Is Indiana a coveted coaching position? I mean, historically, yes, but right now, ugh,
It's really interesting topic. And I know that Indiana fans don't want to hear this, but I'm going to loop Archie Miller into this.
Oh, no.
I'm going to loop Archie Miller into this.
Oh, no.
I'm going to loop, I'm trying to think, Chris Mack into this. Those are the 2 best examples I can think of right now. Those 2 guys are not bad basketball coaches. And I will stand on that statement. They had success at their schools before. Archie Miller is turning a Rhode Island program, in the process of turning a Rhode Island program around right now.
Which is really funny.
When you go to a big-time program with history, and I'm talking like a top 7 history school. I'm talking, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, Indiana, UCLA, Louisville. There's so much pressure to win, and the fan base can turn on you so fast. It is a completely different job, and it just breaks people. I mean, it does. I mean, it's happened. I brought up those 2 examples. There are more examples that I can't think of off the top of my head. It's happening right now with Hubert Davis at North Carolina. The only difference is Hubert Davis hasn't necessarily proved himself as a head coach anywhere else, but the point is, I think that it's still somewhat of a coveted job because coaches will never admit that they're not cut out for a job like that, and some coaches just aren't. There are plenty of coaches, and once again, Archie was a good example. That I'm using an example like Grant McCaslin, and I have no idea if he's good for Indiana or if he'd be good for Indiana right now, but he could be a great coach at Texas Tech and have so much success there. Doesn't mean he'd do anything at Indiana. That's just the way it is with the pressure and the pressure to win and the support that you're getting and how quickly they can turn on you. That's why I just don't know. I mean, it still is a top 25 job in the country, I'd say. You could still poach. There are still high major coaches that you can poach from, but it's not the same as it was 10, 15 years ago where, you could get almost anyone.
And Indiana, I mean, just going back through recent history, I mean, like when you and I grew up, right? Indiana has made 3 Sweet 16s in our lifetime. 2012, 13, and 16. All of those were under the same head coach. And Indiana has had 7 or 8 head coaches in that time span. It's just, it's crazy. Like, they haven't made a Final Four since 2002.
Yeah.
And some people still run around saying, "Oh, Indiana's a whatever in college basketball." And historically, yes, but in the last 23 years, no. That's just how it is. And there are some people who want names like Brad Stevens, Bruce Pearl, Scott Drew, Nate Oates. I don't think IU has the money for any of those guys. You think about the big picture with just the cash numbers with IU Athletics. They operated at a deficit this past year. They reported a deficit of $3 million, largely because of the coaching staff change in football. Most of that, I think, came from buying out Tom Allen and all of his assistants. They had to take out a loan from the university to do that. And then to hire Kurt Signetti and his crew. Worth it, I would say.
Well, a lot of it's revenue sharing, too. Like, that coming is going to be big. What I will say about Indiana basketball is I do think that a big, big chunk of it can and will be handled by boosters and donors and people and like people that aren't the athletic department. But I think the only one that would be a real money issue would be Nate Oates. His buyout at Alabama right now is just ridiculous. I forget exactly what that number is, but it is a lot of money.
$18 million.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I think he'd choose Indiana either, because I think all those guys you were talking about, I don't know. Bruce Pearl's not going anywhere. He's got the number 1 team in the country.
Who just lost yesterday.
They did just lose yesterday. This is if you want an ESPN stat, first time in college basketball history that the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country have lost on the same day twice in the same season.
Wow.
A lot of parity this college basketball season.
Chaos.
Yeah. But I don't think Pearl's leaving. They're like the Brad Stevens thing. If there was anything he's ever said to make me believe he wanted to get back into college coaching, maybe, because I don't know. The dude's just sitting up in the front office right now.
Winning NBA championships.
Winning NBA championships, sure, but coaches love coaching. And maybe he was an anomaly. Maybe he's happy to not be coaching, but I don't know. I
feel like with Brad Stevens, you have to make him say no.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree.
Make him an offer. If he says no, at least you can put your hands up and say you tried. But if you don't make him an offer, then, you got to try. You got to try. There's a ton of names that people are throwing out. I am just interested to see whether or not Indiana gets it right. I don't care whether the program and this coach have any past connections. Some people would prefer that the coach does not have a past connection to the school.
I'm kind of in that boat.
Yeah, I think that you need a fundamental change in the philosophy and the way that Indiana men's basketball is run for this to work, because I think it's past time to admit that Indiana men's basketball is nowhere near what it used to be. I mean, that and even with, I was not a student during the Archie Miller days. I remember those. I remember those days for how much they sucked, but I was not a student during that time. But it feels like the vibes, at least among the students, in relation to men's basketball, are as low as they've been in a while. Hence, Mike Woodson announcing his retirement. But now Indiana's just kind of, limping to the finish line on one leg. In all likelihood, at least at the rate that they're going right now, going to miss the NCAA tournament for the second consecutive season. We'll talk more when we come back. You're listening to IU Sports Sunday. Welcome back to IU Sports Sunday alongside Ben Haller. I'm Nick Rodecap. And Ben, I think that it's time that we focus some energy on things other than Indiana men's basketball. Because at some point, watching the same circus over and over, that's what it is. Now it's a circus, let's be honest. It just kind of wears off. It wears off. And I think that, there's other, believe it or not, there are other sports on IU's campus. Some of them are actually worth paying attention to. While the men's team has lost 5 in a row, Indiana women's basketball has started to right the ship again. They have won 3 in a row. 15-7 overall, 7-4 in the B1G, the Big Ten. They're coming off a win over Rutgers in which they made, 10 3-pointers in the third quarter.
Yep.
I think that's pretty good. Now, Rutgers is not a good team on the women's side. They have been in the doldrums this year. But still, 10 3-pointers in a quarter. Yeah, that works. Indiana goes up to Minneapolis. Actually, they're up there right now. They'll take on the Golden Gophers today at 3 o'clock.
At 3. I was talking to the good old Austin Render, their broadcaster, about watching the Super Bowl on the plane trip back.
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting time for a women's basketball game because I think all the men's games today, are over by that time.
They're all at noon.
Yeah, they're all really early, and that's by design, obviously, with the Super Bowl being tonight. I hope both teams lose, by the way. I don't want to see Philly or Kansas City win. I can't figure out which team I want to see lose more. I think it's Kansas City.
It's definitely Kansas City.
Yeah. I mean, you're a Bengals fan,
look,
so...
Nobody wants to see the city of Philadelphia lose more than I do. But it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Man. Whew. Yeah. New score bug for Fox, though. Excited to see that. That's like...
Only sports media nerds are excited about
that,
right?
Like, oh, hey, there's going to be a new score bug this year for the network that's doing the Super Bowl. So that means Fox is going to retire the one that they debuted in this exact matchup 2 years ago. Crazy.
I think I saw a leaked picture of it. Now, a lot of times they get leaked and it's not actually what it is, but it looks pretty good this year, the one that I've seen, if it truly is.
Yeah. I like to remember specific eras of the NFL by the score bug that's on the screen during whatever highlights playing. I think it's pretty fun. But yeah, Indiana women's basketball putting together a nice stretch here. They are 8 games over 500. Like I said, 7-4 in the Big Ten. As we take a look at the conference standings, they are approaching tournament time very quickly. Obviously, that conference tournament is a week before the men's tournament. Also, that'll be in Indianapolis. Last year, Indiana got upset by Michigan in the Big Ten tournament on the women's side, but Indiana women's basketball closes its season on March 2nd. Man, that's going to come up pretty fast. Less than a month away. But Indiana in the top half of the Big Ten right now in 7th place in the conference. UCLA and USC are at the top. Classic Big Ten women's basketball powerhouses with a combined record of 21-1 in the Big Ten and 43-2 overall. UCLA has not lost yet. Absurd. Ohio State, Michigan State, Illinois, Maryland, and then Indiana. Indiana just beat Nebraska last weekend, and then they will take on Minnesota, and then they got Michigan, they got Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan State, Maryland, Purdue again to close the season for Indiana women's basketball. So you've got some tough games in there, some opportunities to leapfrog some teams in the standings. They only play a handful of home games. They've got Purdue and Ohio State February 15th and 20th, and then Maryland on February 27th, and that is it for home games for Indiana women's basketball. So just 3 more left for them. Indiana softball got their season started, not yesterday, on Thursday. They are 3-1. Still, obviously, a ton of time. They don't even play a home game for about a month, I think. Yeah, they host the Hoosier Classic. That's on March 7th. That's their first home game.
You know, spring's here when the Hoosier Classic comes around and IUPUI comes walking through the door.
Whew. Hey, that's IU Indianapolis
that is
to
IU
you.
Indianapolis now.
Yeah. Shonda Stanton, I think, just got her 800th career win as a head coach in the last couple of days for Indiana softball. So that's fun. They always have a good atmosphere at home games, I feel like. There ain't a bad seat at Andy Moore Field. Seats are all very close to the field. And I feel like you see a lot of home runs. And home runs are fun.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest. You want to talk about home runs? We can talk about Indiana baseball, too. The Hoosiers, will be down in Surprise, Arizona next Friday. Indiana gets their season started against UNLV February 14th. That's Valentine's Day. So if Indiana men's basketball is getting blown out by UCLA, tune in. Ben Haller will be calling Indiana baseball down in Arizona. They got Oregon State on Sunday. Oregon State, the number 7 team in the country. Whew. Good luck. Is there any sort of early scout on them, considering nobody has put anything on paper or on the field yet?
That's the tough part of always the toughest part of the job is prepping for week 1. I mean, it's the same offense, high-powered offense that you're always going to see with Oregon State. Specifically, I think what's different about them this year is it's not as you don't have that first-round pick that Oregon State feels like always has. The Travis Pisana,
he was electric.
The Adley Rutschman, but they just are their 9 hitters going to be someone who could hit clean up on like any Big Ten, almost any Big Ten team. Not Indiana though. That's Tyler Cerny's spot.
Yeah, exactly. I am interested to see how Oregon State fares now that the Pac-12 is gone. I feel like they're going to be fine from a baseball perspective. But we'll see. Indiana, kind of a weird scheduling quirk this year. They play Xavier twice, which is like double dipping for you. It's basically a double home game, right?
The Haller fan base is going to be split. My dad played at Xavier, and I broadcast for Indiana, so we won't talk on those days.
House divided. Put up one of the flags outside.
No,
Indiana Xavier, if such a flag even exists. I don't know.
I'll customize one.
Yeah.
I'll get the Indiana Xavier reversible jacket.
Reversible jacket. Good Lord. Indiana plays Xavier in Surprise, Arizona on Saturday night, and then they host them in Bloomington on February 25th. That's a Tuesday. I will go straight from class to Bart Kaufman Field. Good. I missed that. I'll have to pack my scorebook on that day. 3 straight classes, call a baseball game, go home and sleep like a tree, I'm sure. But yeah, Indiana baseball posed for another big season. We will preview that and more on the other side of this short break. You're listening to IU Sports Sunday on WGCL. It's February in Bloomington, and that means one thing and one thing only. Baseball season, of course. Welcome to IU Sports Sunday. He's Ben Haller. I'm Nick Rodecap. And Ben, we were just talking about it. It seems like there's some weird scheduling quirks with Indiana baseball this year. I don't remember, at least in my very short memory as a student, they haven't played the same team twice in the same weekend in non-con before. I don't think.
Well, aside from 3-game series.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly true. They usually don't play this many MTEs.
Yeah.
And there are 2 things with the schedule that are different about this year. One, obviously the non-conference schedule, if you look at it right now, it is a lot easier. There's really this first weekend in Arizona, you're going to get some decent games, obviously against top 10 Oregon State. Xavier will always have a high RPI because they play like an insane non-conference schedule. When you get a chance to look up their non-conference schedule, it's pretty absurd. But they're going to have those opportunities in the first weekend. Other than that, they don't really play a tough weekend. That is because the Big Ten schedule expanding to 30 games.
Oh, yeah.
And playing teams like UCLA for a 3-game series and USC for a 3-game series. We talked with Jeff Mercer about this, and he just said they're kind of, to put it into perspective, imagine that you take a schedule like last year and you play 2 non-conference weekends against teams like UCLA and USC. Those would be 2 of your toughest non-conference weekends. So that's why, you only have 4 non-con weekends now, and those are going to be the easier ones outside of Arizona. I say easier with quotation marks. When they go down to Cary, they played 3 games they should win against a non-con game against Northwestern, another weird quirk, Harvard and Fordham. But Stetson's an NCAA tournament team in I think like 3 of the last 5 seasons, and they've had a lot of success. I'm not quite sure how they're going to be this year. You get a couple of games against Mount St. Mary's down there, which I will be honest and say I don't really know much about the Mount St. Mary's baseball program. And then, that Big Ten bye week, and another weird thing, they go down to Abilene Christian.
Weird.
I think that the story behind that was usually that Big Ten, non-conference bye week, they host an Ohio like they did 2 years ago, or a Butler like they did last year. What I'm hearing is that somebody canceled on them, I believe. So
Weird.
that's why they were sort of scrambling. And those are always weird because you have to find you first have to find a conference that has bye weeks.
Yeah.
Then you have to find a team that matches up with your bye week. So that's always such a mess.
I'm looking at Xavier's non-con here. So they got the lucky draw in Surprise, Arizona this coming weekend. Xavier baseball plays number 7 Oregon State twice. Oh, that's brutal. They take on Louisville, always an NCAA tournament contender. They go to Stanford, and then after they go to Stanford, they come back east. They play at the defending national champs, Tennessee, and then they go west to Nashville and take on Vanderbilt. And then after that, they go to Baton Rouge and play LSU. Yeah. And then in a midweek, a little down the line, they play Kentucky. That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's gaming the RPI because what happens is even when they have pretty good teams, their best teams are going to go 32-30.
Yeah.
Even if that's just losing, a few Big East games because of how tough the non-conference is. But it's a 32-30 that's going to have a very high RPI. And the main point of that conversation is just to say that them having that RPI is going to help Indiana's RPI. It's 50% in win percentage, 25% opponent win percentage, 25% opponent's opponent win percentage. So that opponent's opponent win percentage, if you play Xavier, is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that's like 3 degrees of separation. Yeah. So, Big Ten baseball coming up. I am excited, except for when it's 30 degrees in the middle of March and they're playing baseball because they have to. But Jeff Mercer always talks about it. You play a summer sport in the winter. Yeah. You got to spend the first 2 or 3 weeks away from home because otherwise, you're not going to play. You're just not going to play.
No Miami this year. I know you're sad about that.
I am devastated. The home opener midweek against Miami of Ohio became a staple on my calendar over the last couple of years. And now I just won't know what to do with myself. It'll be very, very challenging, but I look forward to emerging from this struggle a bigger person.
You'll get through it.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, though. I will say Devin Taylor getting all the preseason accolades in the world.
Deservingly.
Then again, so did Indiana men's basketball. But I think Devin Taylor is more likely to perform to his potential. He is incredible to watch. He was named to the Golden Spikes Award watch list yesterday, which is the award given to the top player in college baseball. Chris Bryant won it once upon a time, I believe. You look at the other names on this list, it is a who's who. It is a who's who of talent throughout the college baseball world, mostly SEC and ACC guys. Taylor is one of 55 players on the list and one of 3 from the Big Ten. So, the Big Ten, not a talent hotbed by any means. Taylor was unanimous first-team all-conference last year. The accolades, you could list them off all day. He is the first Indiana player in the program's history of tracking this information, which goes back to 2008, to be named to the Golden Spikes Award preseason watch list twice. He got it last year, too. He's one of 6 IU players to make the preseason watch list in 17 years. If you have a chance to come to Bart Kaufman Field and watch Indiana baseball, then do it. Because Devin Taylor will be a first-round pick in July. And when he connects with a baseball, it goes really far.
It goes a long way.
Knock me down. Get back up and take a trot. That was, oh man. Colorado Rockies, St. Louis Cardinals 2019. Look it up. Google it, you might say. Speaking of Googling it, Kurt Signetti in Indiana signed Mikhail Kamara's brother
Did
kind of
they?
as a
Had I missed
surprise.
this?
Yeah, as a surprise on National Signing Day. 42 scholarship players added to the roster in total. 33 are already here, and the others will join in the fall. I am intrigued to see how this program shakes up with the spring game coming up in a couple months. The weekend before Little Five, it's on a Saturday at noon, which I think is better than Thursday night at 7, like they had it last year. Indiana brings in an Australian punter.
That's winning.
To replace their Australian punter. Mitch McCarthy will take the place of James Evans. He has a sweet mustache, by the way. Looks like the kind of guy who would serve you a $15 burger. He does. He does.
So specific. What's his name? Let me look this up. What's his name?
Mitch McCarthy, transferred from UCF. 6'5", 230 punter out of Melbourne, Australia. So he punts the football like this. Maybe he kicks it like a kangaroo, does Mitch McCarthy.
It's got some locks, too.
Yeah. Business in the front, party in the back with the haircut, or so it seems. He's wearing 26 in his media day picture, but he's listed as number 44. So between that and the Fernando Mendoza head swap on top of the kid from North Carolina, what's his name? I forget. His name is slipping my mind. He's Indiana. He's going to be Indiana's backup this year, I believe.
Yeah.
It's Grant something. I don't remember, but maybe he's from Old Dominion. Anyway, Fernando Mendoza's head got swapped onto another player's torso/forearms. It was so funny. But the Cuban center has not been having fun lately. At all when it comes to that stuff. They do great work, but that was good for a laugh. I'm not going to lie. I'm interested, very interested. I mean, who isn't, right? Intrigued to see how Indiana's CFP aspirations, I can't believe I'm saying that, shape up for next season for 2025, because the non-conference schedule is straight up putrid, like really, really soft.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that will be a topic of conversation in the fall because it was this year. And now that Indiana's got a national spotlight, I imagine it will be even more so. But you play Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. Not exactly powerhouses. You've got an FCS team in there. You have a team who is like 2 years removed from moving up from the FCS. And you have Old Dominion.
Horrible.
Yeah. Kennesaw State fired the head coach who took them from the FCS to the FBS because, in their words, the results weren't what they were expecting. Do you know how hard it is to move up to the FBS? Of course, it's not going to go swimmingly, but they decided to self-impose some limitations, and that is a rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. Just ask Kurt Signetti. They kick it off with Old Dominion on August 30th. I feel like I think 9-3 is kind of the most likely record for this team. Let's be honest. Oregon and Penn State both on the road.
And Iowa on the road.
And Iowa. But the thing about Iowa is they don't really play football. They play like the 1920s version of football where the forward pass was a novel concept.
You threw it with like both hands over your head.
Like you jump over the offensive line.
Yeah.
Leather helmets. No, like basically no pads. That's the kind of football Iowa plays.
Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, they lost to Nebraska this year, didn't they? Yeah, they lost to Nebraska, so they didn't win their Super Bowl out in Iowa City. By the way, that's a drive. It's a great cure for insomnia, driving from Indiana to Iowa City. That's about all it's good for. Tough.
Yeah, I think driving just in general through the state of Iowa is tough.
Yes.
I mean, because you enter and you just have no idea where you are because it all looks the same for 3.5 straight hours. No idea if you're a quarter of the way there, 3/4 of the way there, or almost in East Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Oh, man.
Home of the best fast food in the country.
Yeah. It's
a lot of processed foods that week.
It was not good for my wallet. Oh, my gosh. The trip to Omaha, Nebraska for the Big Ten baseball tournament, it is quite the adventure. Fantastic ballpark, Charles Schwab Field. Rocco's was not buzzing with people buying Jell-O shots. Todd Graves did not walk through the door.
We did grab a pizza at Rocco's, though.
Yeah. No Jello shot. We weren't even 21.
No.
So it probably was smart that we didn't.
Especially before calling a game. Even if we were 21, I don't think that's very...
Well, there was a rain delay. So we had some
Was it
time.
a rain delay or was it a tornado delay?
Tornado delay. We got stuck in a Best Buy break room.
Yeah. Weird things happen in Omaha.
It's like basketball games on Peacock late on a Tuesday night. I don't know. I mean, I don't have class until 2:20 on Monday or Wednesday. It's okay. I got 3 back-to-back starting at 9:30 Tuesday, Thursday. It all balances out. So I might stay up and watch that game and watch Michigan State beat Indiana by 35. Yeah. As Tom Izzo passes Bob Knight. You know, it's weird because Purdue passed Indiana on the all-time wins leaderboard when they took down Indiana at Mackey Arena.
Yeah.
And then Tom Izzo will, in all likelihood, break Bob Knight's record for wins in the Big Ten, or wins all time, I think it is, against Indiana. So that's kind of a tough stretch in the middle of tough stretches for Indiana men's basketball. There's a hump. They haven't gotten over it. And you are listening to IU Sports Sunday. Sports Sunday, he's Ben Howler. I'm Nick Rodecap. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and to be honest, I just don't care.
Yeah, I've never felt this negatively or not even just uninterested in the Super Bowl in a long time.
Yeah, you know, if you want something more electric to watch during the Super Bowl, because the Chiefs will get bailed out by the refs and escape with I'll go on record and say 22-16 win over the Eagles. If you want
22-16.
They're like the Pittsburgh Steelers in that they find weird ways to reach a final score. I just have a gut feeling it's going to be 22-16 Chiefs over the Eagles.
If it's 22-16, I'll buy you lunch.
Ooh.
That's just such a weird score.
Okay. Now we're cooking. 22-16. I think that if you want something more electric, you could go back and watch, in honor of Mike Woodson, Indiana's win over number 4 Purdue. Rob Finney hit the game winner. You could watch that. You could watch the Big Ten baseball tournament semifinal. Games 1 and 2 against Nebraska.
Don't watch those ones. Watch the first 2 rounds.
Or watch the Ohio State game.
Yeah,
the one where Connor Foley just threw 6 pitches to the backstop and didn't care. He threw 2. That'd be a fun one. Or the Purdue game where Keenan Spence decided to homer off Braden Reisdorf 6 times. Great number on him, by the way. Purdue's Keenan Spence, their right fielder. Where's number 44? The number of one Anthony Rizzo, who should retire a Cub, but probably won't. And that makes me sad. You know what else makes me sad is thinking about Indiana men's basketball. Because we've been, it's been three days since the rumors started flying about Mike Woodson's retirement. And everybody thinks they have the answer for the head coach, the next head coach. The way Dusty May answered that press conference question yesterday was interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
I never feel like you can make anything of those comments because you have a couple of trains of thought. They're never going to come out and say, obviously, I'm interested in that job. I mean, for obvious reasons. They're also really rarely ever going to come out and just deny it not because they don't think there's any chance they're going to go there, but you have, it's politics. You have your agents that are going to be telling you to at least make it look like you're interested in other jobs so you can get a raise or an extension. I mean, that's just the way it works. It's all politics. It's very tough to actually get a grasp on until, especially in season. No one wants to be, especially a team like Michigan that's going to be in the tournament, top 25 team. They don't even be worried about that right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a question of, what are these two programs focused on, right? Michigan's focused on making a run in March Madness. Indiana's focused on making it to March Madness, which, again, is not likely.
Well, maybe making it to the college basketball crown at this point.
Ooh, the CBB crown. What is that, in Vegas?
Vegas.
Yeah, well, Trey Galloway would have fun, since we know what he was doing in Atlantis, which was not playing basketball, allegedly. He was allegedly at the casino, allegedly. But that's just allegedly, a rumor, allegedly. So, yeah. And Trey Galloway's looking forward to it, I think. But maybe they'll make the CBI, take on Wofford or Duquesne or St. John's, you know?
St. John's.
They're not good this year. Or not St. John's. I was thinking Seton Hall. Not St. John's. I'm sorry.
St. John's is like
St. John's is very good. They just beat UConn. I mix up my East Coast schools whose first names start with the letter S sometimes.
Yeah, Seton Hall is horrible.
Seton Hall is
this year.
very bad. And as a big East sicko, you would know a thing or two about that.
Yes, they just lost by 26 to your Butler Bulldogs.
Ooh, the Butler Bulldogs. Yeah. Also not making the tournament. Maybe they'll play Indiana in the NIT at Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Oh, I'm telling you, Big East, Big Ten teams are not going to be in the NIT this year.
Yeah. Man.
Fox TV rights.
Yeah. Ugh. The standards have fallen so far. The hump has only gotten taller for Indiana men's basketball.
The hump's too big to overcome.
The hump is like Mount Everest at this point, and we didn't bring an oxygen tank. There is no oxygen tank. You just have to laugh at some point, right? Because I think you can only handle so many late game heartbreaks in a row. And that's the thing; these are all in a row. Okay, they're not. The Wisconsin laws broke things up a little bit. How nice of them to get blown out and not keep us interested for the whole game.
Look, the joking about it, college basketball's hard. Coaching college basketball's hard. It's just that it's got to be a bit at this point where the getting over the hump. He says it every time.
Yeah. Well, actually, Mike Woodson yesterday did say that he has done a terrible job of getting his team prepared. Yeah. Where have you been for the last 2 months?
Well, he knows that he can't get fired now.
Yeah, just let it out. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think this is a situation where it's like separating artist from art. Separate the coach from the player, right? Because Mike Woodson, as a player, one of the all-time greats in the history of Indiana men's basketball, one of the best basketball figures to come out of this state. To come out of Indianapolis, to come out of Indiana. As a coach, he just didn't have it. And I do think that it's fair to be this critical when I was actually talking to my mom about this on the phone earlier this week, about how when Mike Woodson was hired at Indiana almost 4 years ago now, he said his goal was to bring Big Ten championships to Bloomington and to compete for national championships. And they have not even come close in either facet. And you think back, I want to flash back to senior day last year. Indiana played Michigan State, beat them by 1. After the game, Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal addressed the crowd. Remember back then, there was actually some speculation that Trey Galloway might transfer out. He did not. He said, I'm coming back. We have unfinished business. And then Anthony Leal comes out and says, y'all need to chill. Basically like, hey, stop criticizing us because we're going to get it figured out. I'm paraphrasing. That was the gist of what he said. I think the criticism is fair because the players came out and wrote checks that they couldn't cash. And it's not individually, it's not Galloway's fault. It's not Leal's fault. Anthony Leal actually played very well yesterday. And since being inserted into the starting 5, he's done a lot of good things. It's weird because he doesn't stuff the stat sheet, but his plus minus, which is, just one metric, right? His plus minus is one of the best on the team. It seems like every game. It's strange, but good things happen when Leal is on the floor. That said, when your players come out and say things like that, you've got to back it up. And Indiana men's basketball currently sitting at 14-10 overall, 5-8 in the Big Ten. Go back to last year. That was a down year. A lot of injuries, a lot of hiccups. They were 10-10 in the Big Ten and 19-14 overall. So barring, you win 5 out of 7 to close the stretch this season, you're looking at an end result that is very similar to last year with a roster that is way more expensive. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think the criticism of Mike Woodson is fair. Criticize the coach. The player's legacy is cemented as one of the all-time greats, but I think the criticism of the coach is fair and valid, especially when your contract is as loaded as his is. I think it's very fair.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that you're at a school like this and you have to win. I mean, it's a business at a certain point. And I think, too, I honestly feel like this theory is not coming as true as I thought it would, but it still has some truth to it. Should be easier for a school like Indiana now than it was 5 years ago because of NIL and everything like that and all the money they have. I mean, Woodson had all the resources in the world. Once again, went out and got talent, used the money, but I don't think there was just enough thought put into building the team, constructing the team. It's just something you didn't have to deal with in the NBA. I mean, I don't think it. I never thought it was going to work from the start. I never thought that the move made much sense anyway, but I'm not surprised to see what's happening.
Yeah, and I don't remember who made the point, but somebody made the point that Mike Woodson was not getting any looks in college circles for a reason.
Yeah.
And you think about it now, that's I think one of the reasons why people want somebody who doesn't have a past connection to the program to take over is because Mike Woodson came in and everybody's thinking, okay, he played under Knight. He was part of the glory days from back in the 70s, which, good Lord, it was the 70s at this point. Like that, let's face it, that was 50 years ago. Let's move in a different direction. That's what people mean when they're saying that they want somebody who, is not connected to the program in any way. From the past, that said, if Indiana was to hire Dusty May, nobody would complain. So, we'll see how it unfolds. We'll see how it unfolds. I've been thinking, and I think Indiana basketball is a lot like the Chicago Bears. I don't know if there's any truth to this. I think there is. So I'm going to stick with it. The glory days, last time you had any glory anyway, was the 80s, right? The Bears won the Super Bowl in 85. Indiana's last title was 87. Off-season national champions every year, or in the Bears' case, off-season Super Bowl champions every year. Mm-hmm. A lot of hype, historical significance with respect to their league, to their sport, but a year-on-year problem with disappointing performances once you start actually playing the games. Yet, the fans continue to show up, hoping that things will be different, knowing deep down nothing's going to change until leadership does. Chicago Bears, Indiana men's basketball, I mean, there's something there, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously this last year was hard for the Bears with a rookie quarterback, but once again, I mean, you look at what's happened with the Bears the last 20 years, I don't know how much confidence you have moving forward. But I don't hate that comparison. I think Indiana's just in a weird spot right now where it felt like, the program was obviously declining, and obviously it's on a decline from where it was in the 70s, 80s, but you get that jolt with NIL coming in and rev share coming in, where you're going to be able to outspend a lot of teams to see if they can take advantage of it.
I definitely don't think money will be a problem for Indiana men's basketball because there are a lot of people who want to spend a lot of money to see this team win. So a wasted year. I think it's fair to say that, barring a miracle run, well, that's what it would take.
Yeah.
That's what it would take. Barring a miracle run, Indiana's going to miss the NCAA tournament. If they were to go on a run in the Big Ten tournament, they would probably have to, if not win the whole thing, make it to the championship game. And at that point, it becomes a question of how much energy do you have left once you get into the big dance. You're listening to IU Sports Sunday. Back here on IU Sports Sunday, he's Ben Haller. I'm Nick Rodecap. And, well, Indiana men's basketball plays on Tuesday. Is that a threat? Is that a promise? I don't know what it is anymore. I think it's a threat. I think we're going to call it a threat. The Breslin Center has juice. It's like a Tropicana orange, juiced up, ready to go. I can't believe Michigan State was down, 16 at half?
Yeah.
And then they came back and won by 12. That's a 28-point swing by my count.
They're really this is such coach speak, but they're a really tough-minded team. I mean, they really are. It's just what Tim Izzo teams are. Tom Izzo teams. Tim.
If Tim Izzo shows up, Indiana would have a chance. Also, why is the Penn State? Why are these games sold out? Why did oh my goodness. I just saw on IU Athletics website, Purdue, which makes sense, Penn State and Ohio State, the final 3 home games of the year are all sold out. Yeah. Why would you pay money to see this team? I'm serious. Why would you pay money to watch this? What, because they almost beat Michigan? Woohoo! Almost winning At least we tried. Is that really the standard now? Good Lord. Yikes. Look, if you want to like experience Assembly Hall, that's great, but this is not the year to do it. Like the team getting booed at some point during the game is just normal now. But sure, yeah, sold out. Final 3 home games of the year. You got to go to SeatGeek, which I think is the partner of IU Athletics. There are certain other websites that are better, in my humble opinion. But that's a discussion for another time. I can't believe those games are sold out. The UCLA game next Friday, which is Indiana's next home game, still open. That's Valentine's Day. So if this was I don't know, if Indiana men's basketball and Mike Woodson were to be a relationship metaphor, this would be like one of the valleys where you're really tested and you might need to go to couples therapy and maybe you're realizing it just isn't working out, so you agree to get a divorce. Actually, Indiana's already agreed to that divorce with Mike Woodson.
We're getting deep here.
Yeah. I didn't think it was funny. I think it was either Sting or Billy Joel. I want to say it was Sting last night at the concert. He said, it was either every gambler becomes a philosopher eventually. I gambled thinking that Indiana men's basketball would be good this year. Metaphorically speaking, I did not put any real life money on it because if I did, I would have to call the number. I gambled with my logical reasoning, thinking Indiana men's basketball would be good. The emotions, yes. They were not. So now I've turned into a philosopher throwing out metaphors about relationships and couples therapy. And yeah, it's time for this divorce to be finalized between Indiana and Mike Woodson. I hope he gets to play all the golf he wants in retirement, smoke all the cigars, get over all the humps, whatever it is. That's gonna be his legacy, is getting over the hump. He could never get over the hump.
Defeated by the hump.
Defeated by the hump. Don't tell him that camels exist. That would be very bad because the humps are everywhere. But yeah, it's just, I mean, you think about where this team was supposed to be. And I know with football, we talk about how preseason polls and preseason projections mean absolutely nothing. But for Indiana men's basketball, this is a team that a lot of people thought could win the Big Ten. And the expectations versus the reality, like at least last year, I feel like there weren't as many expectations. Because we kind of knew with Indiana, like, okay, your point guard is Xavier Johnson, who may or may not be healthy. As it turned out, he was not. Your backup point guard is either Trey Galloway or Gabe Cupps, a freshman Gabe Cupps at the time.
Mm-hmm. Your best player, the guy who ended up being your best player, averaged like 4-5 points a game in Oregon the year before.
Yeah, and Khalil Ware, I mean, let's be honest, coming into Indiana, nobody really knew what to make of him because he was so underwhelming at Oregon.
Yeah.
Turns out he just needed a different scene, a different environment. Now
he's a good rookie year too.
He's hooping. Yeah. I think he has better rookie of the year odds than a certain tall Canadian man who may or may not have gone to a school a couple hours north of here. By the way, though, holy cow. I was at Mackey Arena on Friday. I mean, you were there for the Purdue game. Could you hear yourself think?
Well, I was on the call for that game, and you have the headset on, so you're able to tune some of it out, but that was loud.
Yeah, I mean, those headphones aren't exactly noise canceling, though.
No.
Wow.
I remember I was calling with Alex Hines, another one of our students, and he was like asking if we could turn down the crowd mic, and I'm like, dude, that's not the crowd mic, that's our mics.
Wow. Yeah, Mackey Arena, I might get some flack for saying this, but Mackey Arena is it's a fantastic atmosphere.
I don't know why you would get flack for saying that.
Yeah, it's just because, Indiana student appreciates Purdue. That must mean he hates his school. No, I don't hate my school. I can appreciate a heck of an arena, a heck of an atmosphere. And then I had Purdue fans telling me, oh, yeah, that wasn't even that loud as far as Mackey Arena environments are concerned. To which I say, I don't know if I've ever been to a sporting event that was that loud.
Yeah.
I've been to my fair share of Indiana basketball and football games. Okay, fine. Yeah, a football game is louder because there are 3 times as many people, if not more. Ohio State has 110,000. Yeah, that's louder than Mackey Arena. But as far as basketball games are concerned, that Purdue versus USC, I believe that is the loudest basketball game I've ever been to. And it was a blowout. I mean, Purdue is impressive on paper, and when you watch them on TV, they are even more impressive in person. When they're clicking, I mean, Braden Smith is unbelievable. And it just kind of makes me like want to kick myself that Indiana didn't get him. Because he's from Westfield. And, you know, that used to be Indiana's bread and butter, was recruiting kids from the state of Indiana. And you look at what Purdue is doing right now. I mean, their two best players are both from this state, Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn.
It's like their whole team's from this.
I feel like they are. Fletcher Lawyer is he from Indiana?
I believe so.
Fletcher Lawyer is from... he's from Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
Went to Homestead.
He played with Goody in high school.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so Fletcher Lawyer is from Indiana. Caleb First is from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Miles Colvin is from Indianapolis. I mean, all these guys. Camden Heide, I think, is from Indiana too. Mm-hmm. He was at the Canes on Purdue's campus after the game. Allegedly. I think we saw him. He had his hood up and he kept his face turned for most of it, but I swear it was Camden Heide. Which, you know, your team beats a conference opponent so badly that you're playing walk-ons at the end. You can go wherever you want. Yeah. I mean, Purdue is incredibly impressive. Braden Smith, nuts. Eric Musselman, USC's head coach, master crash out. Incredible at getting angry. It's just it's good for a laugh. It's good for a laugh. But yeah, if you have the chance to go to Mackey Arena just to experience a crazy atmosphere, do it, because that is what Assembly Hall should be every single game when Indiana is good. Indiana's not good right now. That's why Assembly Hall is not like that. But when Indiana is good again, which will happen because it just has to, or the people in this city might go insane. When Indiana is good again, that is what Assembly Hall is going to sound like. It's going to be so loud you can't hear yourself, and that's the way it should be. You're listening to IU Sports Sunday. I'm back to IU Sports Sunday. He's Ben Haller. I'm Nick Rodecap. We have IU softball going on right now.
Pancakes and softball.
We just got word of an RBI and a triple somewhere down in Miami. Yeah. Florida International. What's the weather in Miami right now?
Looks like good on these highlights. They're up.
It is 78 and sunny. Oh, man. I need that.
It's 4-2 Iowa State, I believe, right now.
Well, the Cyclones came out hot.
Yep.
Indiana beat them yesterday, I believe. But that was yesterday. God, Miami, it's going to be like 80 and sunny every day for the next week. Bloomington, I don't think we're going to get above half of 80 or see the sun for the next week.
We're back down.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting snow on Tuesday. How fun.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's how you know it's baseball season. It's snowing in February.
What's surprise Arizona like? How about that?
Probably a little bit cooler. I'm going to say mid to upper 60s and mostly sunny.
Oh, goodness. We got low of 45, high of 66, then low of 43, high of 73. That is perfect.
Mint weather for Indiana baseball's season opener next Friday. That would be a good way to spend your Valentine's Day, watching Indiana baseball. Because
I can't think of a better way.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, especially if you're in love with offense. Because Lord knows they can put up some runs, and they can put up some runs in a hurry. At least if history is any indication, that team is loaded. The difference is, unlike Indiana basketball, loaded on paper, not in practice, Indiana baseball is more likely to put it on the field on a consistent basis. The thing to keep in mind with college baseball, they play about 60 games, so there will be some chaos. There will be some upsets.
Don't freak out if they lose to Purdue Fort Wayne like last year.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was an interesting time. It was the second time in 8 years that Purdue Fort Wayne had upset a ranked Indiana team at the start of the season. Fortunately for Indiana baseball, that did not lead to their head coach being fired.
Oh, by the way, Indiana just tied it up.
Hey,
4-4.
Tied at 4 down in Florida International. IUHoosiers.com/audio, I think, would have radio coverage of that. No, they don't.
No, not for these first few.
Not for these, because it's Austin Platt and Alex Hines, two of IU Sports Media's finest, doing the games for them this year. But they did not make the trip for this weekend. So you are left high and dry. unfortunately. Very tragic. But, yeah, Indiana basketball, Tuesday, 9 o'clock, Michigan State. Whatever the spread is, Michigan State's probably going to cover. They can literally just watch film on Wisconsin, just start chucking up threes, and if they go down, you're going to win by a billion. And that's just kind of how it is. Because Indiana on the road tends to come out flat. Super Bowl tonight. Ben, what's your prediction?
Give me the Kansas City Devil Chiefs. I'm going to choose a normal football score here. I'm going to go 28-24.
Okay, 28-24 in favor of the folks from Kansas City. I'm going to say, stick with my guns, 22-16 Chiefs. Probably going to be some weird play like a safety or a 1-point safety or a touchdown being awarded to the Chiefs just because Patrick Mahomes slipped the ref a $20 bill. That's going to do it for us here on IU Sports Sunday. Indiana University Hat Night, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Pacers Knicks. That's on Tuesday. I might be in attendance or I might be listening to Mark Boyle and Eddie Gill, which you can do right here on WGCL. You've been listening to IU Sports Sunday.